Hey friends, if you want to watch super hit movie The Idea of You in English, then you must like this video if you are visiting our channel for the first time. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, friends. In today's video, the movie we are going to talk about is called The Idea of You. We will talk about what this movie is and where you can watch it all. The interesting facts about this movie. In today's video, I'm going to tell you, I'm also going to give you all the information on which op platform or on which satellite channel you will get to watch this movie. Also, we will talk in detail about the technical department, music department, pre-production filming, post-production budget, box office collection of this film. We will also talk about the story of this film, and I will also give you a small review of the story of this film. Apart from this, we will discuss about the facts of this film storyline, star cast actors' performance in the film, and which character has played which role. That's why I request you friends to watch this video till the end. So let's start the video. Tell me if this sounds familiar. A romantic couple, one American, one British, one the proprietor of a small, very narrow business. Happy with family and friends, but lonely and a little lost. One a global superstar, but lonely and a little lost. Both are spectacularly beautiful, and there's a reason the star has to visit the ordinary person's home, where a disgusting beverage is offered, plus a gift of a painting that carries a lot of meaning and constant predatory paparazzi. Yes, you will recognize a lot of the elements of Notting Hill in The Idea of You. It is a glossier but lesser work from writers Michael Showalter, who also directed, and Jennifer Westfeldt, whose better films have more texture. Here, they work from a beloved novel by Robinne. The book's Amazon blurb reads, "Included on the Skims 2020 list of 8 books both you and Mom will love." Perhaps they erred on the side of fan service, hoping that their stars would fill in what the script was missing. They're partially right. Anne Hathaway, playing the older woman of 40, is still as dewy as she was as an ingenue, and rocketing to stardom Nicholas Galitzine is a swoon-worthy Prince Charming. They do their considerable best, even when the screenplay limits them to longing glances, steamy embraces, and heartbreaking partings. Hathaway plays Solène Marchand, owner of a small art gallery in the trendy Silver Lake neighborhood of Los Angeles, and a divorced mother of Izzy, Ella Rubin, a high school junior. Solène's ex-husband, Daniel, Reed Scott, who is better at spending money on Izzy than spending time with her, has purchased VIP access passes for Coachella so that Izzy can have a meet and greet with August Moon, a boy band she has not loved since 7th grade. At the last minute, Daniel bails on the festival for a business trip, and Solène has to abandon her plans for a solo camping trip to take Izzy and her friends to the concert. That is where Solène somehow mistakes a singer's trailer for a porta potty, this story's attempt at a meet-cute. The singer is poor little rich boy Hayes Campbell, Galitzine, who has been a pop sensation since he auditioned to be a part of a boy band when he was 14. He is drawn by Solène's combination of normality, not recognizing him, and stunning beauty. I mean, it is Anne Hathaway. He tracks her down at her art gallery, buys everything in it, and because he is constantly hounded by press and fans, they go to her home for lunch, where they share some stories about their trust issues, and then a kiss. So far, so good. But this is where it goes from a barely plausible fairy tale to a big, juicy target for one of those YouTube snark fests about plot holes and character implausibility. Despite being alive in 2024 and Hayes' experience for nearly half his life with constant attention from fans and media, they somehow think Solène can go on tour with the band through Europe and smooch in public with no one noticing. While they did inch his age up 4 years from the novel's 20, somewhat diminishing the ooky factor, they don't give Hayes much of a personality other than that of lost, sensitive guy whose immediate, unwavering devotion speaks only of his perfect boyfriendness, never of, undifferentiated neediness, his feeling of abandonment by his mother, any thought he might have about someday wanting children, any issues of generational disconnect, cultural, developmental, or life experience. Solène's character is just as thinly developed, still hurt by her ex, adoring her daughter, though very cute when they sing along to St. Vincent in the car, enriched by her support for local artists, and later, understandably unsure about whether a relationship with a pop star 7 years older than her daughter is a good idea. But Hayes has even less to work with. His only traits are being in love with Solène and maybe wanting to write some songs. It's worth mentioning that the songs in the film, both original and needle drops, are quite good. If they gave Oscars for bringing underwritten characters to life, Hathaway and Galitzine would be contenders. Though many in the audience may find more satisfaction from the sweet revenge on her cheating ex than the romance, as implausible as it is, we cannot help rooting for Solène and Hayes to find a way to make it work. When you're 10, it sounds like every line your favorite boy band sings is being aimed directly at you. Somewhere along the way, the illusion shatters. Teenagers are smarter than we give them credit for, and they eventually figure out how parasocial relationships operate. Basically, the fans do all the work, saving up for concert tickets and glitter painting their idols' names on their notebooks, while the lab-tested singers soak up all the love and the allowance money. But what if instead of the feelings flowing in one direction, a pop star fell hard for one of his followers? Or her mom? There are 1,000 ways that Showalter could have tilted the film toward parody. Instead, he resists poking fun at the whole Pop-Tart phenomenon, which meta-comedies like Popstar, Never Stop, Never Stopping, and Josie and Pussycats treated as self-aware satire. Here, Hayes is terrified of being seen as a joke, and though Solène insists he's not, she doesn't take the relationship seriously enough to tell a soul. But Showalter does, tapping songwriter Sivan Kotecha to come up with a slew of plausible hits, including a track called Closer, that turns the May-December dynamic into catchy top 40 gold. For all the challenges that adapting Lee's book posed, getting the music right had to be the toughest, with fixing that ending being a close second. The film version finds a solution that honors Lee's intentions, the way Hathaway's character puts any number of priorities ahead of her heart, while providing a more satisfying sense of closure for their on-and-off relationship. Galitzine, who played it so proper in Amazon's red, white, and royal blue, turns up the emo charisma while relaxing his body language, letting the puppy dog eyes and tattooed torso do the talking, though the English accent doesn't hurt. Still, this is Hathaway's movie and she owns it, independent, desirable, and never ever desperate. Solène's a cool mom to Izzy, and when it comes to Hayes, "I could be your mother," she tells him. "But you're not," he fires back. Wouldn't want to get the wrong idea. The Idea of You is a 2024 American romantic comedy drama film directed by Michael Showalter from a screenplay he co-wrote with Jennifer Westfeldt, based on the novel of the same name by Robinne Lee. Starring Anne Hathaway and Nicholas Galitzine, it chronicles the love affair between a single mother and the lead singer of a popular boy band. A film adaptation of the novel was announced in late 2018 by the producers Cathy Schulman and Gabrielle Union. No further development was made until in mid-2021, with the involvement of Westfeldt, Hathaway, Showalter, and Galitzine being announced. The film was shot by cinematographer Jim Frona, predominantly in Georgia, United States, during late 2022. Peter Teschner edited the film while Siddhartha Khosla composed the original score. Sivan Kotecha composed and wrote the original songs. The Idea of You premiered at South by Southwest on March 16, 2024, and was released on Amazon Prime Video on May 2, 2024. The film received positive reviews from critics. Plot: Solène Marchand is a divorced art gallery owner living in Los Angeles. As her 40th birthday nears, she plans to go on a solo camping trip while her ex-husband Daniel takes their teen daughter Izzy and her friends to Coachella. When Daniel is called away by work at the last minute, Solène reluctantly agrees to forego camping and accompany the teens to the festival. Daniel had arranged for the teens to have a meet and greet at the festival with British boy band August Moon. While waiting in the VIP area, Solène enters what she believes is a bathroom, only to discover that it is August Moon member Hayes Campbell's trailer. The pair flirt, although Solène, who is 16 years older than Hayes, is uncomfortable with their attraction. Later, during August Moon's performance, Hayes seemingly changes the show's set list, dedicating a song to her. At Solène's birthday party, she finds herself disillusioned with prospective men her age. Shortly after the festival, Hayes shows up unannounced at Solène's gallery, seemingly interested in purchasing art. After he buys every piece in the gallery, Solène takes him to a friend's warehouse studio, where they discuss life and art. At Solène's house for lunch, she reveals her insecurities as a result of her ex-husband's affair, and Hayes reveals his desire to be taken seriously as a musician. They kiss, but Solène rebuffs him. Hayes leaves his watch behind then, finding Solène's phone number on the gallery invoice, texts her to join him in New York City. With Izzy at summer camp, Solène flies to New York and meets him at his hotel, where they have sex. Hayes convinces her to travel with him on August Moon's European tour. Solène wishes to keep their relationship private, so does not tell Izzy or anyone else. As August Moon's European tour goes on, Solène continues supporting Hayes, and the pair continues to be intimate in the hotels they stay in. When the band vacations in the south of France, Solène becomes uncomfortable about her age in relation to the other women traveling with them. Other members of the band tell her that Hayes' dedication of a song to her was a tactic they used to impress women, and that Hayes has previously pursued relationships with older women. Solène, feeling misled and disillusioned about the relationship, abruptly returns to Los Angeles. Daniel, who has heard about Solène's relationship, questions her about it, but she denies that she and Hayes were together. Soon afterward, paparazzi photos of the relationship surface online, causing Solène to attract large amounts of unwanted attention. When she goes to pick Izzy up at camp, her daughter is furious at having been lied to, but forgives her mother. Solène goes to a recording studio where Hayes is working, and they rekindle their relationship, beginning to date publicly. She and her family delete their social media accounts. Daniel expresses concern to Solène about the impact of their relationship on Izzy, who is facing challenges at school as a result. Following a trip to New York, Hayes returns and Solène ends the relationship once more. However, Hayes visits her home again, suggesting that they should reconsider resuming their relationship in 5 years, once Izzy has completed her schooling. During this encounter, Hayes leaves his watch with Solène once again. 5 years later, with Izzy now living in Chicago, Solène sees Hayes performing on The Graham Norton Show, where he mentions plans to visit Los Angeles. He returns to the gallery, where they share a joyous, tearful reunion. Cast: Anne Hathaway as Solène Marchand, Nicholas Galitzine as Hayes Campbell, Ella Rubin as Izzy, Annie Mumolo as Tracy, Reed Scott as Daniel, Perry Mattfeld as Eva, Jordan Aaron Hall as Zeke, Mathilda Giannopoulos as Georgia, Meg Millage as Claire, Cheech Manohar as Jeremy, Raymond Cham Jr. as Oliver, Jaden Anthony as Adrian, Victor White as Simon, Dakota Adan as Rory, Roxy Rivera as Jody, Graham Norton as himself, Brent Bailey as Todd, Nina Bloomgarden as Amber, Grace Juneau as Nancy. Production, development. In December 2018, it was announced that an adaptation of the Robin Lee novel, The Idea of You, had been opted by Wella Entertainment, with Cathy Schulman and Gabrielle Union producing. Union, who had been friends with Lee since the early 2000s, named the book amongst her 10 favorites of all time in 2018. Lee, Eric Hayes, Belle Hope Dane, and Jordana Malik also serve as producers. In June 2021, it was revealed that Jennifer Westfeldt had adapted the novel, and Anne Hathaway was cast in the starring role while also serving as one of the producers. Casting. In August 2022, Michael Showalter was confirmed as director. The following month, Nicholas Galitzine was added to the cast as the lead singer of the hottest boy band on the planet, and in October, Ella Rubin was revealed to be playing Hathaway's daughter, and that principal photography had commenced. The same month, Annie Mumolo, Reed Scott, Perry Mattfeld, and Jordan Aaron Hall were revealed to have joined the cast, as well as Jaden Anthony, Raymond Cham, Vic White, and Dakota Aden as the rest of the band Galitzine fronts. Filming took place in Georgia in the cities of Atlanta, Savannah, and surrounding areas in October 2022. Much of the artwork featured in the film were pieces done by real artists. Anne Hathaway and production designer Amy Williams worked together on sourcing art, with Williams stating, "We worked really hard to make the art a focal point and make it authentic." Music. Main article, The Idea of You, soundtrack. The film features original songs performed by the fictional band August Moon, which were written by Savan Kotecha, who also served as the executive music producer. Galitzine performed vocals for few of the songs. An album consisting of 11 tracks were released by Arista Records digitally, day and date with the film, which would be followed by the physical versions and the deluxe edition of the album featuring 4 live performances of the band's recordings, releasing the next day. The soundtrack was preceded with 3 singles, Dance Before We Walk, Taste, and Closer. Marketing. In December 2023, Amazon Prime Video, which acquired the distribution rights of the film, released an exclusive still from the film in their 2024 slate of original programming. The film's official trailer was released on March 6, 2024, and garnered over 125 million views on social media platforms, becoming the most-watched trailer for an original film released on a streaming platform. Release. The film had its world premiere at South by Southwest as the closing night film on March 16, 2024. It was released as a Prime Video original film on May 2, 2024. Reception. On the review aggregator website Rotten Tomatoes, 81% of 175 critics' reviews are positive, with an average rating of 6.5/10. The website's consensus reads, "The Idea of You offers a welcome reminder that Anne Hathaway remains a thoroughly delightful rom-com lead and reaffirms that few filmmakers understand the genre better than Michael Showalter." Metacritic, which uses a weighted average, assigned the film a score of 67 out of 100, based on 37 critics indicating generally favorable reviews. Benjamin Lee of The Guardian wrote, "Showalter manages to make The Idea of You look and breathe like the grander films it comes after, rather than the tinier ones it sits alongside. It's all not ultimately enough to truly transport us back to the genre's heyday, but it's a damn sight better than what we've been forced to get used to." Peter DeBrugge of Variety wrote, "The film version finds a solution that honors Rubin, Lee's intentions while providing a more satisfying sense of closure for their on and off relationship." Alyssa Wilkinson of the New York Times wrote, "The Idea of You succeeds mostly because of Hathaway's performance, though she and Galitzine spark and banter pleasurably." Alison Wilmore of Vulture wrote, "The Idea of You could stand to be a little more indulgent. It allows the real world to rush into its unexpected relationship almost before it gets going. But it's surprisingly seductive even with its restraint. Anyone can holler along to a One Direction song in the privacy of their home, but it's something else to reconnect with the feelings expressed by one of those big choruses." Lovia Gyarkai of The Hollywood Reporter wrote, "The Idea of You functions best as a carefree treat. A feel-good romantic comedy that delivers some laughs and bursts with the magnetism of its lead. That it manages to wiggle in some lessons about self-discovery is merely a bonus." Rafael Montemayor of IndieWire wrote that the film does a complete love story, going beyond where most movies like these end, to explore the moment a magical fling becomes something more, where a little "let's see where this goes" becomes something worth fighting for, and maybe also losing. Richard Lawson of Vanity Fair wrote, "The Idea of You is glossy and smart, a cut above the slop so often served to its intended audience. It may force a neat ending, it may strain logic, it may leave some intriguing avenues unexplored, but The Idea of You is otherwise transporting, a fairy tale worthy of a big screen." Valerie Complex of Deadline Hollywood wrote that, "Hathaway's performance offers moments of genuine emotion and connection that hint at the film's potential, which keeps things together long enough to be enjoyable." Alejandra Martinez of The Wrap wrote, "What could have been a lukewarm romance is instead something much more surprising and sensual. In the hands of lesser performers and filmmakers, the premise could have quickly fallen apart. The Idea of You, however, has actors who know exactly what they need to bring to deliver a believable, compelling romance worth getting swept up in." Nikki Baughan of Screen Daily wrote that the screenplay does not linger here and soon diverts from the book's somber climax to offer up a more audience-friendly ending. Fletcher Peters of the Daily Beast wrote, "The Idea of You is the perfect glitzy, splashy movie that this story about a glamorous whirlwind love affair deserves. The film's take may diverge from the novel, but it's those differences that make the film so memorable. From the moment The Idea of You was announced, it became one of my most anticipated 2024 movie releases. Not only is it loosely inspired by Grammy winner Harry Styles, but it marks Anne Hathaway's return to romance movies. It was basically made for me, and after watching it this weekend, I'm happy to report that it lived up to those perfect Rotten Tomatoes scores. Well, not majorly at least. There was one plot detail that I had an issue with: the double breakup. Adapted from the Robinne Lee romance novel of the same name, Anne Hathaway plays Solane, a 40-year-old newly single mom who accidentally runs into Hayes Campbell, Nicholas Galitzine, a 24-year-old boy band singer who is eerily similar to One Direction. Despite the age gap and their vastly different lives, the two hit it off and Solane finds herself swept up in a swoon-worthy romance. Romance movies often hinge on the chemistry between the love interests, and thankfully, Hathaway and Galitzine knocked it out of the park. From the moment they met on screen, I was captivated by the sexual and romantic tension between them. I'm not even a fan of the age gap trope, but something about these two made it work. It's not even just about the intimate sex scenes, which the Academy Award winner has said were their North Star, but rather the goofy moments that these two shared. I couldn't help but smile watching them interact and dance around their hotel room without a care in the world, or laugh at Hayes having to hide in Solane when they made their first escape together. What made the idea of you really great, though, was the characters' ability to communicate with each other. From flirty banter that built up their relationship to important, heartfelt conversations, there was no room for miscommunication in this romance movie, and I, for one, appreciated that. But I did have one problem with the plot. Unfortunately, not everything about the idea of you was perfect. When it comes to romance movies, there is almost always a moment where the love interests break up so they can realize that they actually do belong with each other. The Prime Video flick is no different, except for the fact that Solane and Hayes break up twice within the 2-hour runtime. Even worse, she's the one to break it off both times. The first time she calls it quits with Hayes, it's because she realizes that she might be being played. On a vacation with one of the band members and a slew of young women, Solane learns that Hayes has always had a thing for older women, which makes her question whatever they're doing. She decides to fly back to LA, and when confronted with rumors by the people in her life, she denies ever dating him. Of course, they end up getting back together after Solane apologizes for acting rashly, and the two decide to take their relationship public. Despite getting together less than 30 minutes ago, the pressure of fame becomes too much for Solane's daughter, and she makes the heartbreaking decision to end things with Hayes for good. Now, maybe it's just me, but witnessing the same couple break up twice in less than an hour was very anticlimactic. If the creators wanted the second breakup to be emotionally impactful, they shouldn't have included the first one. It would have worked better if they found another reason for Solane to leave the vacation and return back to Los Angeles while still being in a relationship with Hayes. Or, if they really wanted the double breakup beat, perhaps Hayes should have been the one to end it the first time. While it's undeniable that he's in love with her, he is much younger, so having him act irrationally upon their first argument would have been in character for someone who is in their early 20s. In an era hungry for rom-coms that both entertain and enlighten, this film positions itself as a contender. However, its execution leaves it languishing in the realm of what could have been. Coupled with the length and a saccharine resolution that undercuts its more serious undertones, the idea of you renders it a fleeting pleasure rather than a lasting impact. Either way, it will no doubt find its audience, those yearning for escapism, wrapped in the glow of star-crossed lovers against the backdrop of music and fame. Hathaway's performance offers moments of genuine emotion and connection that hint at the film's potential, which keeps things together long enough to be enjoyable. In the warmly charming rom-com The Idea of You, Anne Hathaway plays a 40-year-old divorcee and Silver Lake art gallery owner who, after taking her teenage daughter to Coachella, becomes romantically involved with a 24-year-old heartthrob in the boy band August Moon. They first meet after she mistakes his trailer for the bathroom. There are a few hundred things about this premise that might be far-fetched, including the odds of finding love anywhere near the porta-johns of a music festival. But one of them is not that a young star like Hayes Campbell, Nicholas Galitzine, would fall for a single mom like Solène, Hathaway. Solène is stylish, unimpressed by Hayes' celebrity, and has bangs so perfect they look genetically modified. And most importantly, she's Anne Hathaway. In the power dynamics of The Idea of You, Hayes may be a fictional pop star, but Hathaway is a very real movie star. And you don't forget it for a moment in Michael Showalter's lightly appealing showcase of the actor at her resplendent best. The Idea of You, which debuts Thursday on Prime Video, is full of all the kinds of contradictions that can make a rom-com work. The highly glamorous, megawatt-smiling Hathaway is playing a down-to-earth nobody. The showbiz veteran in the movie is played by Galitzine, a less well-known but up-and-coming British actor whose performance in the movie is quite authentic. And even though the whole scenario is undeniably a glossy, high-concept Hollywood fairy tale, Showalter gives it enough texture that The Idea of You comes off more natural and sincere than you'd expect. The only thing that really needs to make perfect sense in a movie like The Idea of You is the chemistry. The film, penned by Showalter and Jennifer Westfeldt from Robin Lee's bestseller, takes its time in the early scenes between Solène and Hayes. First at Coachella, then when he stops by her gallery, allowing their rapport to build convincingly and giving each actor plenty of time to smolder. Once the steamy hotel room encounters come in, The Idea of You, the movie has, if not swept you away, then at least ushered you along on a European trip of sex and room service. At the same time, it stays faithful to its central mission of celebrating middle-aged womanhood. The relationship will eventually cause a social media firestorm, but its main pressure point is whether Solène can stick with Hayes after her ex-husband, Reed Scott, cheated on her. This is a fairy tale she deserves. While Showalter the Big Sick has long showed a great gift for juggling comedy and drama at once, The Idea of You leans more fully into wish-fulfillment romance. That can leave less to sustain the film, which has notably neutered some of the things that distinguish the book. The May-December romance has been shrunk a little. In the book, the singer is 20. Given that Galitzine is 29 and the 41-year-old Hathaway is no one's idea of old, this is more like a July-September relationship. In the book, the daughter, Ella Rubin, is a huge admirer of the pop singer, adding to the awkwardness, but in the movie, August Moon is so 7th grade to her. There are surely more interesting and funnier places The Idea of You could have gone. But Hathaway and Galitzine are a good enough match that for a couple hours, it's easy to forget. But the most convincing thing about The Idea of You? August Moon. The movie nails the look and sound of boy bands so well because it went straight to the source. The original songs in the film are by Sivan Kotecha and Carl Falk, the producer-songwriters of, among other pop hits, What Makes You Beautiful, One Direction's debut single. That connection will probably only further the sense that The Idea of You is very nearly the idea of Harry Styles. The filmmakers have distanced the movie from any real-life resemblances. But one thing is for sure. With August Moon following for Town of Turning Red, whose songs were penned by Billie Eilish and Phineas O'Connell, we are living in the golden age of the fictional boy band. Prior, the release of Amazon Prime's The Idea of You, starring Anne Hathaway as a 40-year-old single mother looking for a new lease on life, and Nicholas Galitzine as the young British pop star with whom she has a steamy affair, author Robinne Lee, whose 2017 erotic romance novel is the basis for the film, pushed back against the assumption that her book is just thinly veiled Harry Styles fanfiction. In an Entertainment Weekly article from May 3rd, Lee said she regrets ever mentioning that Styles, who skyrocketed to fame as a member of the boy band One Direction, and has since gone on to have a successful solo career, was one of the inspirations for her main character's pop star love interest. I think it's unfortunate because it's being used as clickbait, and when I'm writing for Hayes, I'm not picturing Harry Styles, Robinne Lee told the publication. Regardless of Lee's recent statements, the film version of The Idea of You, which was released onto streaming earlier this month, sure does feel like fan fiction, and the filmmakers go to great lengths to draw a straight line from the on-screen version of Hayes Campbell directly to Styles, from his oversized cardigans to his humble beginnings on an X Factor-like reality show. a detail that is not actually mentioned in the book. Savan Kotecha, executive music producer of The Idea of You, who wrote the songs for the movie's fictional boy band August Moon, even co-wrote some of One Direction's greatest hits. It's clear that the filmmakers saw the perceived connection to Styles as a selling point, something to riff from and even poke fun at, but his shadow doesn't loom quite as large over The Idea of You as one might think. Unfortunately, the film's paper-thin script and lack of world-building casts a much bigger shadow, one that, despite committed, vulnerable performances from our two leads and a bona fide Hollywood ending, it never quite gets out from under. In the opening minutes of The Idea of You, we are introduced to Solène Marchand, the owner of a Los Angeles art gallery, who is packing for a solo camping trip ahead of her fast approaching her 40th birthday, while her ex-husband Daniel, Reed Scott, takes their 17-year-old daughter Izzy, Ella Rubin, and her friends to Coachella. Daniel, perhaps because he doesn't know his daughter quite as well as he should, got Izzy and her friends VIP passes to see August Moon, the boy band Izzy was once obsessed with but now thinks is so 7th grade. In fairness, The Idea of You does attempt to build a genuine relationship between Hayes and Solène. Hathaway and Galitzine have an easy chemistry, and what little banter they do have never feels forced or awkward. Their more intimate scenes are playful and sexy, and they bond over their emotional struggles. Solène opens up about the betrayal she felt over her husband's infidelity, and Hayes talks about the difficult relationship he has with his parents. Galitzine, no stranger to the romantic comedy, having starred in Amazon Prime's Red, White, and Royal Blue, sure knows how to look at someone, but longing gazes are, unfortunately, all he's regulated to do. Hayes' only personality trait seems to be his devotion to Solène, and while that might be the ultimate fantasy, it isn't enough to make him feel like a real person. We never learn very much about his life other than a passing interest in eventually going solo. An overall lack of development is a huge issue throughout The Idea of You. A huge draw of romance movies, rom-coms in particular, is the way their worlds feel detailed and lived in. There's a reason why everyone wants to live in a Nancy Meyers movie. It's because of the way the characters' homes, their surroundings, feel warm and familiar and populated. Take, for example, the 1999 rom-com Notting Hill, with which The Idea of You shares similar themes. Hugh Grant's reality in Notting Hill is colorful and fully realized, inhabited by characters that are offbeat and memorable. He has friends, family, a life. Such care and detail is paid to even the smallest parts, creating a film with a distinct and relatable world. By comparison, Hayes' life, despite being a megastar with managers, handlers, and bandmates, feels utterly empty. It's a chore to remember any of the other band members' names, and the one we do know, Ollie Raymond Cham Jr., exists to cause trouble in exactly one scene and essentially disappears for the rest of the film. The same can be said for Solène. We never get a real sense of who she is, why she is so drawn to Hayes, or what her relationship is like with her daughter, aside from a few forced scenes of them singing in the car together. Even when Solène is confronted with the violation of privacy brought on by her romance, it doesn't really have anything to do with how she feels. It's all about how it affects everyone else. The Idea of You is allergic to conflict. The filmmakers spend more time bending over backwards to explain that Solène dating a 25-year-old heartthrob is feminist, actually, that they fail to create any real tension or stakes. In the novel, Solène's daughter is only 12 years old and still very much a fan of August Moon. Her mother's relationship with the lead singer feels like a betrayal to her. In the film, her daughter is much older and couldn't care less about the band, so it is never an issue that Solène has to confront. When the couple are vacationing in France and Solène finds out that Hayes dedicating a song to her at Coachella is a bit thick. All of the guys do when they find a girl they like, Solène feels lied to and humiliated, the same way she did when her husband was cheating on her and all of their friends knew. But aside from causing a momentary breakup, this never goes anywhere. Hayes barely explains himself. He merely turns their fight around on Solène, insisting that she's just afraid of their connection. even when Solène is afraid to tell her best friend Tracy, Annie Momolo, about Hayes because she doesn't want to be a hypocrite, considering her ex-husband left her for a younger woman, the obvious difference being that Daniel was cheating on her. Tracy simply says something to the effect of, "Well, I hate him and I love you." The film spends entirely too much time giving Solène permission to be in love with Hayes, begging us for our blessing, that it feels like wish fulfillment in the worst kind of way. The idea of you tries. It really does. And in fairness, it's better than it needs to be. It has catchy pop songs, attractive and engaging romantic leads, and some killer fashion looks. But most of the time, it avoids saying anything real or hard in order to facilitate a fantasy that is weightless. A fine enough daydream, but not nearly engaging enough to see play out on the big screen. In Proving Age is Just a Number, Anne Hathaway does a number on age in The Idea of You, a steamy rom-com in which the 41-year-old thoroughly obliterates sexist attitudes toward the so-called cougar complex. As Solène, a divorced mother convinced that romance has long passed her by, Hathaway exudes ordinariness, yet looks radiant doing it. The crux is that Solène has forgotten how sexy and beautiful she is. We know this because her idea of a good time is embarking on a camping trip by herself, while her 16-year-old daughter, Izzy, Ella Rubin, is away for the summer. But before she can even pitch a tent, her frantic, workaholic ex, Daniel, Veeps Reed Scott, pulls up with his new trophy wife, Eva Perry Matfeld, begging Solène to take his place as chaperone for Izzy and her friends at Coachella, the chic SoCal Music Festival. All have VIP passes to attend. What's a dedicated mom to do? Say yes, of course. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a movie. But did co-writers Michael Showalter and Jennifer Westfeldt need to resort to so many highly implausible scenarios on the road to depositing a clueless Solène in the trailer of one of the festival's headliners, boy band hottie Hayes Campbell, Nicholas Galitzine, from the To Die for August Moon? It plays even clunkier than it sounds, but the chemistry between the perfectly matched actors is so palpable, it quickly becomes an afterthought. Like us, Hayes is instantly enchanted by his intruder, paying no mind to their 16-year age gap. He's smitten, and faster than you can say Notting Hill, the famous pop star is caught in a whirlwind affair with a nobody. Instantly, Hayes and Solène become fresh chum for the tabloid sharks, and in turn, a judgmental public oblivious to the double standard of accepting older men with younger women, but not the other way around. Now, Showalter and Westfeldt, kissing Jessica Stein, are onto something, and they do a marvelous job of forcing us to confront how catty we can be when assessing the lives of public figures. Facing the truth of this pettiness is a wee bit uncomfortable. An uneasiness is an emotional zone Showalter loves to venture, as evidenced by his previous directorial undertakings, be it interracial marriage in The Big Sick, crooked televangelists in the eyes of Tammy Faye, or condescension toward elder cat ladies in Hello, My Name is Doris. The beauty is his gift for subtly imparting social commentary in a manner that never distracts from the narrative. With The Idea of You, which he and Westfeldt adapted for Amazon Prime from Robin Lee's best-selling romance novel, Showalter has perhaps surpassed himself, expertly conveying the nuances of the passions Solène and Hayes generate. Ditto for the tsk-tsk aimed at consumers of celebrity gossip whose need to know often comes at the expense of people who become imprisoned by their fame. Once word gets out about the dishy couple jet-setting across Europe during August Moon's summer tour, the backlash reaches a fever pitch. Suddenly, living the fantasy of private planes, swanky hotels, and late-night cafes with one of the world's most eligible bachelors becomes very real for Solène, especially its impact on Izzy, who feels betrayed in more ways than one. But should she? Is she harboring the same antiquated ideas as us about older women with younger men? And what about an even more outraged Daniel? Does he not see the hypocrisy in dumping Solène for a woman practically half her age? The subtext is abundant, but it's not what makes The Idea of You one of the better rom-coms in recent memory. It's more the ease with which it delves into the inner lives of Solène and Hayes, two people who on the surface seem to have it all, but in reality crave better versions of themselves. For Hayes, it's breaking out on his own, ditching the teeny bopper scene, and for Solène, it's rediscovering the sensuous, vivacious woman she was before marriage and motherhood intervened. Hathaway, following up on her excellent work as the femme fatale in last year's Eileen, and Galitzine, doing his own singing, dancing, and playing, are all in on exploring the anxieties and insecurities that are holding their characters back. But it's the undeniable heat they generate as lovers that catapults the story into the stratosphere. There are weaknesses, most notably the cardboard construction of the supporting players, particularly Annie Mumolo, Bridesmaids, as Solene's quirky BFF, and Mathilda Giannopoulos, aka Molly Ringwald's daughter, as Izzy's closest pal. But when the two leads are this strong, do we even care? Add to that a fantastic soundtrack, including 5 original songs penned for August Moon by hitmaker Savan Kotecha, and the idea of you becomes an unexpected early summer treat. You might even say it's one for the ages. There are lithe, low-level pleasures to be had in the glossy pop romance The Idea of You, Amazon's latest attempt to turn a fanfic fave into a broadly alluring date movie. It follows last year's Red, White, and Royal Blue, a smartphone screen adaptation of Casey McQuiston's What If Gay Romp. In that film, it was the fantasy of a president's son and an English prince. Here, it's a 40-year-old mum and a Harry Styles-level pop star, a blog post daydream of love and lust, played out with both jostling for space. It's a far sleeker and far more satisfying package than the former, illuminated by the genuine movie star power of Anne Hathaway and made with a higher level of craft, from the sturdy studio-level direction of Michael Showalter to a mostly smooth-going script. The rom-com genre has allegedly been back for a while now, but that's mostly translated to quantity over quality, and while last year's sleeper smash, Anyone But You, might have looked the part, it was cursed with junky dialogue, hapless plotting, and a disastrously ill-fitting leading lady. With Hathaway at its center, The Idea of You is on far surer footing, in small moments almost threatening to be something far greater, but settling into being perfectly acceptable instead. A plain movie par excellence. Actor-turned-novelist Lee was inspired to write the book while crushing on a YouTube video of a boy band, imagining what her life would be like if she ended up running away with him on tour. Styles fans later claimed it as their own, although Lee denies he was the primary target. Solane Hathaway is turning 40, and while she runs a successful gallery in Los Angeles, she's still bruised from her ex-husband's cruel infidelity and the inevitable divorce that followed. When Solane's ex lets her and teenage daughter Izzy, Ella Rubin, down yet again, she is forced to step in and exchange her solo hiking trip for a weekend of babysitting at Coachella. While there, she meets Hayes, Nicholas Galitzine, the baby-faced lead singer of headlining band August Moon. An instant connection turns into an unlikely romance as Solane gives in to the whirlwind. It's easy to see why the source material caught fire with readers. A similar combo of luxe fairy tale romance and masturbatory wish fulfillment to 50 Shades? Lee admits she got advice from L. James. It's not as kinky, and the film, according to diehards, is not quite as explicit as the book, but it's a rom-com with an awareness of how important sex can be and how the intricacies of how we interact sexually can help to define a relationship. The age gap has been somewhat smoothed from the book, with Hayes now being 24 rather than 20, but it's still a central cause of concern and conflict in the story. Solane made hyper-aware of how she's viewed by those around him, and eventually the greater public. Hathaway's pristine glamour is such that it leads us not to wonder why a 24-year-old could-have-anyone heartthrob would be so very taken by an unfamous woman old enough to be his mother, and more to wonder what 24-year-old wouldn't. The film briefly touches upon issues of misogyny and ageism, but only very lightly. Solane's life based in almost as much fantasy as that of Hayes. Her house is as idyllic as the hotel rooms she's whisked away to. The script, from Showalter and Jennifer Westfeldt, might be written with more thought than one has come to expect from a streaming rom-com. The low bar has meant that dialogue that just about makes sense is cause for applause, but enough so that one then starts to expect just a little bit more texture. Solane and Hayes are both a little too dreamily constructed to ever feel like real people, and there's such little interest in any other character in the film that, like an actual dream, it can be a little too tightly focused. There's probably a trick being missed with this one. Cinemas being skipped for a headfirst dive into streaming instead. Working with what appears to be a relatively sizable budget for the genre, treating us to multiple locations, Showalter manages to make the idea of you look and breathe like the grander films it comes after, rather than the tinnier ones it sits alongside. Hathaway, returning to the kind of warm comfort food viewing many still know and love her for, is a compelling lead of considerable, rarely matched charm, adding more heart and soul to a film that often sorely needs it. And with Galitzine, a more believable pop star than he was a prince in red, white, and royal blue, there is enough electricity to power us through some otherwise underpowered patches. It helps, too, that the film's fake music is strong enough to make us believe it. It's all not ultimately enough to truly transport us back to the genre's heyday, but it's a damn sight better than what we've been forced to get used to. Story: things get complicated when a chance encounter between Soline, Anne Hathaway, a 40-year-old art dealer, and 25-year-old boy band singer Hayes, Nicholas Galitzine, turns into a taboo relationship exposed to public scrutiny. Review: based on Robinne Lee's book The Idea of You, the romantic drama goes beyond the fairy tale notion of forbidden love to give you a real picture. Wide age gap couples often draw unsolicited opinions, and social media only worsens the situation. The toxicity of age-related prejudice and judgment is directed at both men and women, Leonardo DiCaprio, for instance, but opinions get uglier if women are older. Be it Priyanka Chopra and Nick Jonas or Sam Taylor Johnson and Aaron Taylor Johnson, women are at the receiving end of the hatred and slander, even more if they aren't famous. You can be 40 and yet clueless. The idea of You's feminism and social awareness is important but ill-placed. The narrative feels confused between its desire to be a feel-good love story or a complex drama on ageism and toxicity of the internet. It handles the latter half better as the love story lacks heft and chemistry between the leads. What begins as a physical attraction progresses to emotional investment, but that doesn't come across as much as it should. Female desire finds an outlet, but the crusade overrides the love story, the latter being poorly established. The film gets its cause right, not the story as much. Anne Hathaway's modern love track, where she essays a bipolar character who is unable to come to terms with her reality, was testament to her excellence as an actor. Her ability to express Soline's sudden outburst of her deeply hidden vulnerabilities and people-pleasing past lends the film its most powerful scenes. Her romance with Nicholas Galitzine, however, feels far-fetched and ineffective. The mother-daughter bond and trust issues of Soline are well explored. The Idea of You review. A Coachella meet-cute leads to lust, then love in this romantic comedy, which puts a spin on the well-worn trope by having romance blossom between the 24-year-old member of an ultra-famous boy band and a 40-year-old single mother. That the woman is a stunning, stylish, and smart LA art gallery owner played by Anne Hathaway may nix the idea that she is anything approaching ordinary. But nevertheless, this rom-com offers a heady slice of appealing escapism fueled by the chemistry between its two leads. Directed by Michael Showalter, the Big Sick, who co-writes with Jennifer Westfeldt, the film has echoes of Notting Hill and the recent Marry Me, but is in fact adapted from the 2017 novel by actor Robinne Lee. While the book didn't make a huge impact on publication, sales picked up during COVID-19 as readers turned to escapist fiction and word spread. Amazon will be hoping to entice a similar reaction when the film releases theatrically in the UK on May 2nd, in partnership with Met Distribution, while going out simultaneously on Prime globally. British lead Nicholas Galitzine, a 2015 screen star of Tomorrow who starred in the platform's Red, White and Royal Blue and can currently be seen in Starz series Mary and George, could certainly tempt big-screen audiences. While Amazon is working hard to promote the film's fictional band August Moon with a social media presence and music releases, the R-rated film with its frequent sex scenes is not aimed at their young fans, rather their parents, who may tap into some nostalgia about their own adolescent crushes. The Idea of You leans heavily into that dreamy vibe as Soline, Hathaway, who also produces, first encounters charismatic August Moon singer Hayes, Galitzine, when she takes her 16-year-old daughter Izzy Ella Rubin, to a Coachella VIP meet and greet paid for by out-of-touch cheating ex-husband Daniel, Reed Scott. A neat twist, and a departure from the book in which Izzy is a 12-year-old superfan, is that Izzy no longer cares for August Moon, preferring edgy, female-driven rock like St. Vincent, whose music peppers the upbeat soundtrack among solid August Moon tracks written by Savan Kotecha and performed by Galitzine. This narrative tweak removes an immediate obstacle for Celine and Hayes, whose chemistry is electric from the moment she awkwardly mistakes his Coachella trailer for a bathroom. It also allows Celine the space, initially at least, to explore this new experience without a huge amount of parental guilt. And enjoy it she does, as the pair quickly give in to their attraction and enjoy athletic sex, shown in a spicy montage, all over Europe, with Celine joining Hayes on tour in the guise of his art dealer. The bright, colorful locations were in fact recreated in Atlanta and Savannah, where the film was shot. These early scenes play as straight fan fiction fantasy, Celine so swept up in the thrill that normality fades away. Celine is portrayed as being in full control, a savvy, relatable woman deciding to put her own needs first. It helps that Galitzine plays Hayes as a kind, emotionally complex, and respectful young man. When reality comes crashing in, thanks to paparazzi photos of the pair getting cozy in Paris, the film shifts a gear. Now Celine must face the judgment of the world, the gossip columns that call her a cougar, the internet commentators, not to mention the intensely hypocritical Daniel, who cast aspersions on her looks, her intentions, her parenting. At first, Celine stands firm, refusing to apologize for her actions, but when Izzy begins to suffer, Celine has a difficult choice to make. The idea of You, 2024, may be called a romantic comedy, except it lacks romance and comedy. This is a surprise since the film is directed by Michael Showalter, who co-created the laugh-out-loud Wet Hot American Summer franchise with David Wayne. The two also penned the underrated rom-com parody They Came Together, 2014, starring Amy Poehler and Paul Rudd. Although a box office bomb, the genre spoof explodes with originality compared to Showalter's latest venture. Based on Robin Lee's same-named novel, The Idea of You stars Anne Hathaway and Nicholas Galitzine, the prince from 2021's Cinderella, as a May-December couple. Celine is a 40-year-old divorcee with plastic surgery who runs an art gallery, and Hayes is a 24-year-old pop singer in a famous boy band when they have their meet-cute in his trailer bathroom. Yeah. According to the book, Hayes is just 20, and Celine's 12-year-old daughter has a major crush on him. In addition to upping his age, the screenplay by Showalter and Jennifer, Kissing Jessica Stein, Westfeldt grows the tween to 16, played by an older-looking Ella Rubin. Right from the start, the movie makes a point to establish the high schooler has moved on from her junior high infatuation of the boy band's frontman. While it's not unusual for adaptive screenwriters to incorporate alterations from the source material, this revision eliminates the lover's biggest obstacle. Consequently, the movie offers no real conflict, little sexual buildup, and an uncomplicated heroine. Next to Jennifer Lawrence's fierce and hilarious performance in the rom-com No Hard Feelings, 2023, Hathaway is a bore. Oscar Wilde once said, "The very essence of romance is uncertainty." But because this film is so formulaic, borrowing heavily off of Notting Hill, 1999, there's nothing uncertain about where the romance is going. In Licorice Pizza, 2021, the age difference between 15-year-old Gary, Cooper Hoffman, and 28-year-old Alana Haim, presents a will they or won't they tension which is missing in this generic treatment. Even the trashy parts of Lee's original love story have been cleaned up for a play-it-safe version. In other words, The Idea of You is like 50 Shades of Grey, 2015, without campy sex, American Hustle, 2013, without personality, Silver Linings Playbook, 2012, without fleshed-out characters, Forgetting Sarah Marshall, 2008, and Something's Gotta Give, 2003, without the stakes, Music and Lyrics, 2007, without the timing, Before Sunset, 2004, without clever dialogue, Punch Drunk Love, 2002, without quirk, Secretary, 2002, without edginess, Bridget Jones's Diary, 2001, without a lovable lead, Serendipity, 2001, without predestined soulmates, Jerry Maguire, 1996, without quotable lines, Four Weddings and a Funeral, 1994, without the charm. Moonstruck, 1987, without the authenticity. What's Up, Doc, 1972, and The Main Event, 1979. Without chemistry. Barefoot in the Park, 1969. Send Me No Flowers, 1964, and Sex and the Single Girl, 1964, without the star power. Roman Holiday, 1953, without the sacrifice. His Girl Friday, 1940, without the banter. My Man Godfrey, 1936, without the zaniness. And It, 1927, without it. Put simply, it would be a good idea for prospective viewers to skip this Prime Video miss and stream the aforementioned romantic flicks. Robin Lee's 2017 debut novel, The Idea of You, followed an almost 40-year-old woman who enters a romance with the star of a giant boy band sensation. The book was a giant hit, in no small part due to fans viewing one of the main characters as a stand-in for One Direction's Harry Styles. Now comes a movie adaptation from the director of The Big Sick, which translates the novel while making enough changes to improve upon the source material, including a fantastic ending that puts a perfect bow on the story. Like all rom-coms, The Idea of You starts with a meet-cute, and this one is pretty magical. Anne Hathaway is stellar as single mother Solène, who stumbles upon the lead singer of one of the hottest boy bands on the planet, Hayes Campbell, Nicholas Galitzine, after she mixes the singer's trailer for a restroom at Coachella. The thing is, she wasn't even supposed to be there surrounded by teenagers screaming their lungs out. She should have been on a nice little solo camping trip in the woods, trying to make up for the years she lost after getting pregnant at a very young age. But when her idiot of an ex-husband Daniel, Reed Scott, fully embracing the douchery of the character and relishing in it, bails on taking their 16-year-old daughter Izzy, newcomer Ella Rubin, looking just like a young Hathaway circa The Princess Diaries, it falls on Solène to take a group of teens to see their childhood favorite band, August Moon in the desert, fighting through a crowd to get to a restroom. Though a fancy trailer with a shirtless pop star can also do the trick. After a couple of intense glances and a grand onstage gesture, the two decide to explore a relationship. Despite three main issues, they live in different cities, they have a 15-year age gap, and he is a superstar with an obsessed fan base while she is just a small-time art gallery owner. It would be easy to draw comparisons to Notting Hill, but this movie is so much more. For one, this is a great love story, and the dynamic between Hathaway and Galitzine is palpable. One of the smaller but brilliant details of the movie is how little we know of Hayes, at least in the beginning. He is given as much care and consideration as the female love interest usually gets in mainstream rom-coms, while providing enough hints in dialogue to know everything you need to know about him. Likewise, The Idea of You does a complete love story, going beyond where most movies like these end to explore the moment a magical fling becomes something more, where a little "let's see where this goes" becomes something worth fighting for, and maybe also losing. While the biggest selling point of The Idea of You is Hathaway's Solène dating a guy much younger than her, the script, by Showalter and Jennifer Westfeldt, uses this as an entry point to a much larger and poignant story. Sure, there are acknowledgments about it, but the film subverts certain expectations by having Hayes act rather mature and self-aware for his age, saying what he wants, and also letting Solène make decisions and recognize her freedoms. As for Solène, she does start by mostly being interested in having fun with a young rich guy, but the movie never makes it about reliving glory or reclaiming Solène's youth. Instead, the biggest setback for the two is less about the age and more about Solène being the owner of a small art gallery and Hayes being a superstar. More specifically, the movie explores idol boy band culture and how we treat their partners. Nobody likes a happy woman, one of Solène's friends tells her, and that is at the center of the story. The film has some poignant commentary on the hypocrisy of people ignoring men dating much younger women, but vilifying women dating younger men in the public eye, and how much this comes from the band's fans. If there's one big flaw to this boy band love letter, it's that the fictional boy band August Moon is not very convincing as a superstar band. Savan Kotecha's original songs are catchy, but the actors, particularly Galitzine, never managed to sing or dance the way the number one 20-something singer on the planet would. Sure, he is young and hot, but he doesn't exude the kind of larger-than-life yet relatable and down-to-earth aura that boy band members do, which ends up being a bit distracting throughout the film. Still, it's hard to obsess over one detail when the rest of the idea of you delivers on every front. It is clear Michael Showalter loves rom-coms, and he knows how to do them extremely well, embracing tropes and expected moments, while also keeping things fresh and new. Where the story of a 40-year-old woman dating a kid in his lower mid-20s screams midlife crisis, Solene's story is much more of a midlife coming-of-age movie that is also a rom-com. What makes the character fascinating and unique is how she is not trying to recreate her younger years or reclaim her lost youth. Instead, Solene is just finding herself in this new stage of her life, learning what she wants and growing into her new self. Life doesn't end on motherhood, let alone end on 40. There is still plenty of time to find yourself, find love, get a heartbreak, and push yourself into more. Hathaway captures this with incredible vulnerability, but also a self-awareness and confidence in what she wants that makes Solene excel at both the comedy and drama of the story. Early on, Hayes says people don't really know him, they know the idea of him. By the end of this adaptation, we get the full picture of this romance and the two people involved. Just because a movie features stock characters in a familiar scenario doesn't mean it can't repurpose and invigorate those tropes well. Exhibit A, The Idea of You, a formulaic romantic comedy based on the 2017 novel by actor-turned-author Robinne. The best-selling book follows a 40-year-old woman who finds herself in a romance with a famous boy band singer, delivering a fantasy shared by many fans of New Kids on the Block, NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, and One Direction. Full of the usual ups and downs, this charmer explores its adult characters with surprising dimension and care, making the material sing, even though we've seen versions of this story in various permutations countless times before. Director Michael Showalter knows how to make rom-coms. He helmed two terrific examples with The Big Sick, 2017, and Spoiler Alert, 2022. And while his latest has a kitschy logline and expected plot turns, it's no less effective in delivering those predictable joys. The movie's story comes equipped with two main rom-com hooks. One, the notion of a person dating a celebrity, and two, the May-December romance between an older woman and a younger man. The former category has antecedents in Notting Hill, 1999, Music and Lyrics, 2007, and Marry Me, 2022, the latter in Harold and Maude, 1971, How Stella Got Her Groove Back, 1998, and The Proposal, 2009. Though, it's far more common to see an older man with a younger woman, making the dynamic here a selling point. Fortunately, The Idea of You confronts this double standard in passing remarks, and with a character who represents that hypocrisy. Showalter and co-writer Jennifer Westfeldt smartly adapt the material in a manner typical for a motion picture based on a book, refining characters, simplifying, and changing the ending to a more crowd-pleasing one. Showalter's presentation is polished, resisting many aesthetic choices that might cheapen this material. Cinematographer Jim Frona's handheld camera work captures the intimacy of bedroom scenes and Solene's emotionally uncertain state with its mild wobble. Elsewhere, Frona and editor Peter Teschner, Marry Me, craft sequences where August Moon plays on stage, replicating the look of a concert music video. These are later intercut alongside the shots of Solene and Hayes swimming at the beach, walking, laughing, and flying to locations throughout Europe in the requisite picture-perfect falling in love montage. However, August Moon's songs produced by Savon Kotecha for the movie don't sound quite good enough to justify Solene's dreamy-eyed response to them. She hasn't regressed into a teenager again. She's a mature woman who takes her emotional state seriously. So her sudden fandom seems unbelievable. Then again, everyone has their quirks. Maybe a committed boy band fanatic would disagree with me about the quality of the music. However, I was more engaged musically by the brief scene of Solene and Izzy rocking out to St. Vincent in the car. What works well about The Idea of You is the rapport between Hathaway and Galitzine, whose characters make each other happy and have a convincing chemistry. That bothers a lot of people in the movie. People hate happy women, remarks Solenne's friend. The movie features some light commentary on how their relationship would have experienced less conflict if their genders were reversed. In that respect, I wanted Solène not to care what other people think, ignore how strangers feel entitled to have an opinion about her personal life, and allow herself to be happy. Tabloids and internet trolls be damned. Even if that doesn't happen, Showalter supplies a tidy ending for the idea of you. Most rom-coms fail because filmmakers and studios try to force the formula instead of telling a good story. The idea of you recognizes that all the movie needs is a rapport between the leads, good storytelling, and a happy ending. What a concept. The newest high-profile rom-com is The Idea of You, based on the novel by Robinne Lee. In the film, Anne Hathaway stars as Solène Marchand, a 40-year-old mother who has a meet-cute with Nicholas Galitzine's Hayes Campbell, one of the singers in a boy band called August Moon. The two begin a whirlwind romance, but given their difference in ages, roughly 16 years, things quickly hit the skids as the venomous, stultifying nature of modern celebrity puts pressures on them both that neither of them are quite prepared to handle. Let me say up front that this film succeeds in no small part because of the presence of Anne Hathaway. There's no question that she is one of the most versatile actresses of her generation, capable of delivering potent and emotionally textured performances in everything from light teen fare, The Princess Diaries, to brainy science fiction, Interstellar, to queer melodrama, Brokeback Mountain, which features one of her most haunting performances. She brings all of those considerable skills to bear in The Idea of You, and even when the script doesn't give her much to work with, she still manages to capture and convey Solène's many complicated feelings as she begins to find herself falling head over heels in love with the younger man. One can see the spark in her eyes during their meet-cute, just as one can see the sense of despair and sadness on her face once they part for what seems like the last time. However, I have to give Galitzine credit too, because in the past year he has consistently turned in one great performance after another. He seems to have an almost unnatural ability to portray yearning young men whose cherubic features cover over a deep well of insecurity and angst. In Hayes' case, much of this stems from familial dysfunction, and just as importantly, from his deep fear that he will be seen as nothing as a joke by both his fans and the world in general. It might seem trite to some, but I found myself wholeheartedly believing that a 24-year-old man whose entire youth has been spent in the public eye, he auditioned for the band when he was merely 14, would begin to have doubts as to his own worth, both in his own eyes and the rest of the world. Indeed, it's only because we get to see both of these characters in all of their rich emotional complexity that we come to care about them as both individuals and as a couple. For Solène, the unique nature of their relationship threatens her relationship with her daughter, who, like many other teens, has to endure the relentless mockery of her fellow high schoolers. Hathaway perfectly captures the complex play of emotions in these scenes, just as she also conveys a rich well of feeling anytime she shares the screen with Galitzine. Theirs is an undeniably electric chemistry, and it appears in scenes both silly, the moment when Hayes comes back to Solène's house and drinks spoiled milk as he tries to help her figure out what is salvageable from her broken fridge, to steamy, their various sexual encounters. While it's not explicit in the same way as, say, Red, White, and Royal Blue, The Idea of You still isn't afraid to show the sexier side of romance. I know that I, for one, will always be grateful for seeing more of Galitzine sans clothes. As far as the script goes, it hits all of the notes one would expect from a rom-com. Some might balk a bit at the time jump that occurs near the end, and while I can see the point, I also think that it neatly resolves some of the tensions and difficulties that the story has thrown in the way of our protagonists. And as others have pointed out, there are some plot twists and turns that do strain the modern viewer's credulity. Not the least of which is the fact that Solène and Hayes think that they can somehow go on a European tour, engage in all kinds of amorous shenanigans for several weeks, and somehow think that all of this will go unnoticed by either the paparazzi or social media. And while this is certainly a rom-com, it does tend to veer more toward light humor than outright guffaws. Michael Showalter, who co-wrote the screenplay with Jennifer Westfeldt, clearly understands the contours of the genre better than most directors working with the genre today, and he knows how to coax out textured performances from both of his leads. I would also be remiss if I didn't mention the songs, performed of course by August Moon, many of which are decidedly infectious. Credit must go to Nicholas Galitzine here, too, who shows that he can only act but sing, too. He really does fit the bill for the soulful member of a boy band, and that's no mean feat. Ultimately, the idea of you is a pleasant entry in the romantic comedy genre. It does have some deeper messages about the perniciousness of fame, about the way that older women often have to contend with numerous double standards about their love lives, about the necessity of making oneself vulnerable to others, but it wisely doesn't beat us over the head with such messages. Instead, it delivers exactly what we all really want from a film like this one. Two beautiful people falling in love and having lots of very beautiful sex. While some might not like the way that the film changes the ending, I for one was more than happy to see our larger-than-life leads get the happy ending they deserve. When paparazzi swarm her home attempting to photograph the couple, and even Izzy, disparaging articles are written about her, many questioning her suitability as a mother, and of course folks gossip about her. Hayes says that he isn't close to his parents, who divorced when he was young, and that his dad only seemed to become interested in him after he became famous. He also laments that nobody seems to care about his musical pursuits. He learned to play guitar and writ songs, even though it wasn't required for August Moon. He recounts a time where he got to meet one of his musical heroes, only to learn the man just wanted a photo op for his teenage daughter, who was a fan. Obviously, Sohn spends a lot of time lying to Izzy about her relationship with Hayes. And Hayes helps perpetuate more lies, calling Sohn his art consultant when she joins him on tour. Daniel is critical of Soh's house, calling it a starter home, and he attempts to use money to buy Izzy's favor. A man drinks spoiled milk and gags. At the smell, a teenage girl says she'll never be able to give up TikTok. Conclusion, let's just get this right out of the gate. The problem with the idea of you isn't the age difference between Sohn and Hayes, it's the number of sex scenes this film devotes to them now. There's no nudity in those scenes, but that's only thanks to some clever camera angles and skimpy undergarments, and language is another problem. With several uses of the F word, we do see some nice moments between Sohn and Hayes. She helps him feel like a real person. He helps her process the betrayal from her ex, and we see some good mother-daughter bonding with Sohn and Izzy. But we also see how Soh's relationship with Hayes puts a strain on all three. Hayes becomes isolated by his own fame. Sohn is picked apart online by complete strangers. Izzy is bullied by her classmates. And of course, Izzy feels betrayed by Soh's lies, in part because it's a little too reminiscent of how her dad lied about his own extramarital affair. So yeah, the idea of you isn't one most families will want to explore more. Details, it is a spectacle to see a musician on stage dancing and singing. Starstruck feeling only intensifies when fans begin to dream about meeting that pop artist on a casual outing and fantasize about a meant-to-be romance. Yet in the idea of you, a book-to-screen adaptation directed by Michael Showalter. The concept of falling in love with a famous heartthrob is taken in an entirely different direction. Instead of a fan stumbling upon their idol, a nonchalant single mom, played by Anne Hathaway, takes her teenage daughter to meet a boy band and ends up enamored by one of its lead singers who she is only familiar with because her daughter used to be obsessed with them in middle school. As you might have guessed, the feeling is mutual, and like any traditional rom-com, love is in the air. However, beyond the romance on screen, the film's originality lies in its ability to offer an alternate view of the term coming of age. What is this idea of you about Sohn, a just-turned 40 single mother devotes her life to? Raising her teenage daughter, Izzy Ella Rubin, and keeping her art gallery in Silver Lake up and running as she prepares for a camping trip, determined to disconnect from the world, while Izzy enjoys Coachella with high school friends, and her father, Celine's ex Daniel, played by Reed Scott, is caught off guard by a sudden change of plans. Instead of staying inside a tent next to a campfire, Sohn ends up at one of the hottest music festivals of the year, and happens to bump into a pop star. On the way to the bathroom, the artist's name is Hayes Campbell Nicholas Galitzine, a member of a major boy band called August Moon, whose sound and formation give major One Direction vibes with an organic meet, cute and a lasting impression. Things escalate between the two, however their love bubble doesn't last long as the paparazzi and internet scrutiny takes a toll on them. This leads the couple to question whether their desire to be together is causing more harm than good. It can be easy to be judgmental of a film like this at first glance when thinking about previous portrayals of older women dating younger men on screen. There is a common thread of female characters preying on younger boys, often using their position of power to control their partners who are usually minors into being dependent on them. What sets the idea of you apart is the natural connection that Soani and Hayes have. Their love isn't just about physical attraction, although they spend plenty of time in hotel rooms and does not emphasize power imbalance. Both protagonists meet each other at a time when they are most vulnerable and in need of change. Soan still feels shattered by her ex-husband's betrayal, while Hayes was propelled to start him so early on that he often wonders whether his career is fleeting. Even Izzy is no longer into his music like before. The two are on the same page about what they are in search of in the dating realm, despite their age difference. Showalter and Jennifer Westfeldt's script has a keen eye in making this story far from a cautionary tale, giving way for Hathaway and Galitzine's undeniable chemistry to flourish. Their scenes together fuel the film with a perfect mix of charm and heat. The actors have a lot of experience in the rom-com genre, having starred in classics like The Princess Diaries and modern hits like Red, White, and Royal Blue, which is a valuable asset in making this project worthwhile for viewers craving more organic and well-executed love on screen. Although the idea of you will land on streaming instead of getting a theatrical run, it is easy to imagine viewers at home giggling every time the couple shares a passionate kiss and sympathizing with them when the internet offers brutal judgments, especially targeted towards souling about their bond. This rom-com also deconstructs the perception that a 40-year-old woman has learned everything she needs to in life. Hathaway's character might have gained experience throughout the years when it comes to motherhood, but she is still lost in a dating scene with a limited pool. Hayes doesn't just represent her boldness in love, but also ensures this is a coming-of-age journey. What is deemed by most of the online critics as a midlife crisis becomes an awakening for Soan. It's not just about her exploring the world on private jets next to her musician boyfriend, but rather the mending of her broken heart, although romance might be the hook here. Hathaway's journey into becoming a confident woman keeps the film interesting. The actress has a magnetism to her that makes it believable that she can be a responsible and nurturing mom, as well as a woman feeling youthful while falling for a younger man, yet amid the script's nuances and the passion brought to the screen by the two leads, the supporting elements to this narrative feel irrelevant. Galitzine does have the looks, talent, and stage presence that check off the boxes for a boy band member, but the boy band itself feels like a one-man show. The music written by Savin Koteka is boy band material. After all, he also wrote music for One Direction. But the emphasis on only Gallen's vocals makes the whole idea of him being part of a group rather than a solo act unconvincing, although the headlines about Hayes and So's relationship blame her for taking his eyes off his career. There is no insight whatsoever from other August Moon members or managers into Has' love life, which limits the character's arc. Aside from the romance that unfolds on screen, there is also barely any interaction between Hayes and Izzy, which doesn't make sense, considering that she is Celine's daughter and greatest priority. In other words, sometimes it seems like the character's only function is to be a famous boyfriend. He never truly interacts with his partner's social circle and rarely engages with his own, except for Coachella, as well as a brief scene by the pool with the rest of the band in Europe show, alters the idea of you, scores points when it comes to providing a nuanced view of an age gap romance and candid performances from both Hathaway and Galitzine, although their romance is fully developed during the film's runtime and Soan undergo a compelling coming-of-age journey. The music and boy band elements here don't add depth to Has' arc. Nonetheless, the adaptation, charming qualities outweigh the flaws, proving to be one of the better rom-coms to come out in recent years. It's enjoyable, sexy, and features a romance worth rooting for because the only red flag here is the public's reaction to their relationship. What starts as a fling becomes something more by the end, with a pleasing finale that diverges from Robin Lee's novel. Well, it's another Harry Styles-inspired movie. Who would have ever thought the Harry Styles-inspired book to screen adaptations could receive a cinematic treatment like superhero movies? I wouldn't have believed it myself if you had told me. About this, 5 years ago, the latest is the idea of You directed by Michael Showalter, adapted from the novel of the same name by Robin Lee, which follows an art curator's romance with a major pop star heartthrob. The first reactions to this movie were that it would be cringe. Why? And why would I watch a movie based on Harry Styles? Well, you should. It's a meet, cute, and steamy romance movie with a strong female protagonist who deals with divorce and a whirlwind romance that leaves her questioning her happiness. So Anne Hathaway is a renowned art gallery owner and a 40-year-old recent divorce with a 16-year-old daughter. Izzy Ella Rubin, she eagerly awaits her solo camping trip alone in the woods, even though she is not entirely confident about it as she skims through the dummies for camping guidebook. But when her ex-husband Daniel Reed Scott bails on, Izzy and her friends plans to go to Coachella, so Inne takes them to see their favorite band August Moon with VIP passes and meet and greets Izzy her friends. And the Rabid fans are buzzing, with youthful energy to meet the heartthrobs. So Inne leaves the VIP section to relieve her bladder only to be faced with Hayes Campbell, Nicholas Galitzine, the British singer of her daughter's former favorite boy band. After the initial banter between Hayes and So, she reunites with Izzy and her friends to watch the August Moon set. At Coachella in the audience, Hayes dedicates a song to her, and she doesn't think about it too much until he turns. Up in her gallery the next day, Hayes and Sohn begin a secret whirlwind romance by accompanying him on the European leg of the tour, while Izzy is off at camp during the summer, So's new relationship brings up a lot of questions about her dating a much younger man. She keeps the love affair a secret from Izzy. What would happen if she were to find out about it? Would she be able to choose her happiness or sacrifice her relationship? With Hayes, if social media scrutinizes it, I was pleasantly surprised by the idea of you. Even though the premise raised some eyebrows, I wanted to give it a chance, and it exceeded my expectations. Not only did I chuckle in my experience if I chuckled or shed a tear, that means I thoroughly enjoyed the movie. This judgment also applies to books. While watching the film, I laughed and sympathized with Hathaway's character. So Inne is a multidimensional female protagonist who quickly brings out her charms and charisma. Why wouldn't a heartthrob like Hayes fall for her regardless of the wide age difference? She is a woman who runs her own gallery. She has a strong relationship with her daughter, so knows the risks of being in a relationship with Hayes. She even explains her limited or lack of interest in committing to a relationship due to her recent divorce from her cheating ex-husband. The character has so much depth to offer for a movie that was initially seen as a parody of the Harry Styles-inspired book to screen adaptations. The idea of You discusses society's lack of concern when older men date younger girls. Whereas older women are shamed for dating younger men, it depicts the societal shame and criticism that Soline deals with as a 40-year-old divorced woman with a teenage daughter, from horrible name-calling to being criticized by her ex-husband. It's no mistake that Soline is extremely cautious of the repercussions and the damage it has done to her family, especially Izzy due to the media scrutiny, but she struggles with navigating her family and the media's reactions by prioritizing their safety and sacrificing her happiness. It's a difficult decision for Soline to make, considering she knows what is best for her and her family. It's a sincere, earnest, romantic love story between two characters who navigate their relationship by listening to each other. There are a lot of emotional moments that really convey the gravity of their situation. This love story is not just a product of a new cinematic treatment. It examines thought-provoking topics surrounding the private lives of celebrities, but most importantly, how the world criticizes mothers for everything. Even if the idea of You has a Hollywood ending, The charming love story is undeniable. It has an empowering mess that delivers laughs, and the two central leads have great chemistry. What more can you ask for this film, directed by Michael Showalter, screenplay by Michael Showalter, Jennifer Westfeldt, based on the idea of you by Robinne, produced by Cathy Schulman, Gabrielle Union, Anne Hathaway, Robinne Lee, Eric Hayes, Michael Showalter, Jordana Mick, starring Anne Hathaway, Nicholas Gallen, cinematography, Jim Frona, edited by Peter Tessner, music by Siddhartha Casa Production Companies, Amazon MGM Studios, Well Entertainment. I'll Have Another, Somewhere Pictures, distributed by Amazon. Prime Video release dates May 2nd, 2024. Running time 116 minutes, country United States, language English. So guys, this is the review of the Idea of You movie and some information about it. How do you like our today's video? Please let us know by commenting. And if you like this video, please like it.